All right, well, let's see if we can remember how to do this.
Like
It's been a while. It's been like 4 days. It's Blair and Barker. Welcome back from the All-Star break. Did you have a good All-Star break?
It rained a lot.
Pretty much.
Mowed, rained.
Yeah, that
That's
was
What's
that
the
was pretty
All-Star
much the
game?
story of the All-Star break.
Home run derby?
Home run derby. They got to do something about the home run derby. We're going to talk to David Samson later in the show. I'm afraid I like the home run derby. I'm afraid it's going the way of the NBA dunk competition, where, the NBA dunk competition, it's basically everybody's 6 guys from the development league and everybody's, 19th player dunking. Guys you're never going to hear from again. Guys you don't care about. Guys you've never heard of. Not quite that way yet in baseball, but they got to do something.
Well, it's a hurry up and get it over contest, right? It took 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Maybe cut down the number of players, cut down the number of rounds.
I want to see how far they can hit it. Figure out how to show us that.
Yeah.
And then I'm tuning in more.
Yeah.
Until then, unless the Oscars winning, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, congratulations to Teoscar Hernandez.
Oh, you knew that's coming. Didn't you?
The way this year's gone, I knew it was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. That's the cherry on top.
The only thing that didn't happen is I thought that he'd swing the bat and fly out of his hands and hit Vladdy in the arm or something like that. And
then Vladdy wearing the jersey was tremendous.
Anyhow.
I mean, that's just, you can't write that up.
No, you can't. 7:07 is the first pitch tonight as the Jays open a 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers. A reminder, it is an Apple TV game, so you can listen to it on Sportsnet 590. The Fan. Matt Stairs joins us at 4:30. It's also a big weekend in the Western Canadian Baseball League. The Okotoks Dogs are hosting the WCBL All-Star Game, and I want to we'll talk a little bit about that league. That team alone had 6 players drafted. It's a sort of a summer collegiate league, and Siemens Stadium was voted the best summer collegiate stadium in North America by Ballpark Digest. So they've got a lot going on there. Matt Stairs is out there for the All-Star Game. They had a little they're going to have a little home run derby. I think they had a Matt Stairs hitting clinic as well. So it'll be great. I'll get Stairs and Barker to talk hitting, and I'll probably just leave the room.
You should.
When that happens. So let's get to John Schneider. But before we do that, just a reminder of where we are at this point in the season. Got to do this.
Please
It's
don't.
been 4 days.
Would you please not say it?
Barker's Toronto Blue Jays are 44-52. That's good enough to be 14 games out of the lead in the AL East and 9.5 games back in the wild card. The Orioles are 58-38. They lead the East. The Yankees are 58-40. The Red Sox 53-42. Tampa 48-48. The Guardians, the Mariners, the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Dodgers are all division leaders right now. The closest race, again, just to remind you this, the closest races are in the AL East, where the Yankees are a game back, and in the AL West, where the Houston Astros are a game back of the Mariners, and that is going to be quite a race to watch. In the wild card, the American League wild card, I mentioned the Jays are 9.5 back. There's 6 teams between them and the final wild card spot. So, without further ado, I should remind you the back leg line is open, 416-413-3959.
Bring it.
And bring it. I'm sure you've got some thoughts, maybe some thoughts on the All-Star Game, the format. Maybe you've got some ideas about how we can update the home run derby format. Of course, you've probably got questions about the Jays as well, so please feel free, 416-413-3959. And we've also got a chance to win tickets to see the Jays and Rays at the Rogers Center later on in the show. But without further ado, it's Friday. That means we'll talk to the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider. Very pleased to be joined now by the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider. John, thank you for doing this. As always, we appreciate your time. Just very simple question to get started. Did you have a good All-Star break?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Good All-Star break. Yeah, I was home in Florida and took a few days off in the Florida heat down there and got to reset, recharge a little bit. And got back into town last night. But yeah, it was a great break, and looking forward to getting back after it this weekend. But good to talk to you guys as always. Thanks for having me.
Just wondering if you have any update on potential roster moves ahead of tonight's game.
Yeah, a couple actually. So both Jimmy Garcia and Eric Swanson will be active in our bullpen tonight. And we optioned Brandon Isert and Zach Pop to AAA. So those two guys will be ready to roll tonight against the Tigers.
John, how did you decide on the rotation coming out of the break?
A combination of matchups, rest. I think you look at our rotation and guys have been, a ton of innings over the last year and a half and, getting up there, veteran wise. And so I think it was a combination of, rest, matchups with who we're facing, who we think gives us the best chance, and also keeping guys sharp. So it kind of worked out really well for all the parties involved, I think, to get them penciled in where they are. And kind of go from there. But these guys talk with Pete all the time. Pete's been doing this forever. We had this kind of mapped out a few different ways to go over the weekend in Arizona, and they all knew what the work was going to look like over the break. So I think it worked out really well.
What can you tell us about how Bo is doing, and have you spoken to him?
Yeah, I was in touch with him over the break. He's doing well. He's in the lineup tonight playing shortstop, and I think that the break was a good thing for him physically, mentally, got some good work in, took care of himself physically with the calf, feels good. So, another welcome addition back in our lineup tonight.
John, any worry with the lower half issues, here lately that maybe down the road mechanical changes are going to be having to be made with Bo just because of the force and everything that goes on starting from the ground up? Think changes will have to be made with him?
Yeah, I don't think at this point. That's a good question because of his swing, I think. But I think he does such a good job of taking care of himself and preparing to play. It's been, these haven't been, crazy injuries, you know what I mean, with the calf this year. And I think, we've been playing it pretty smart with him so it doesn't turn into anything. But I don't think at this point anything needs to be drastically different mechanically. And I think that he does such a good job of keeping himself available and taking care of his body where he should be good to go.
John, when you get everybody together today before tonight's game, do you got a message for them? Do you say anything, as you would at the start of the season, not a team meeting, but just a little get together with some words? Or is it basically just, here's the lineup card, take BP, let's go get them?
No, we talked to the guys a little bit. They all, they all appreciate the All-Star break, I think, in their own way, whether they're in the All-Star game or spending it with family or just, taking some time for themselves. They get it. I think it's always, it's a weird time because you're getting back from the longest layoff you have over the course of a year when you play every day. So I think just kind of talking through that a little bit, making sure they all are in the, physically a good spot to go out and compete. But it was quick with, mainly the hitters, the pitchers we talked to before the break about kind of just, here's what we're expecting for the weekend. And it is nice because guys get a little bit of a mental blow too, so they're all kind of chomping at the bit to get back out there a little bit. Yeah,
speaking of the pitchers, what do you think the biggest challenges for the starters having a lot of time between starts will be?
Yeah, it's really good for some, and I think some just need to keep pitching, right? I think it's just kind of reading their outings, their first initial outing after the break, and kind of seeing how sharp they are with their command. That's the biggest thing, with what their location's doing. It's different for everyone. I mean, each guy's going to be a little bit different, but you hope that, you've lined them up to where, it's appropriate rest, but not a lot of rust. But I think just you got to read their early innings as they get back out of the break here.
John, I know you played, you came out of All-Star breaks, you've been a coach, you've been a manager now coming out of All-Star breaks. As a offensive player, what have you noticed as a coach and also as a player, some of the challenges, that will come with just not picking up a bat for 4 or 5 days and trying to come out and hit elite velocity and laying off the secondary stuff? Anything you'd be looking for, any message that may be given from one of the hitting coaches just to try and help a guy get back into the flow of an offensive, game going forward here?
Yeah, it's you see it because we play so much. You play every day. You see it after off days. You can always not always, but sometimes there's a little bit of a lull. I think for the first 4 or 5 innings from either team. If both teams had an off day, you see it a little bit, and then you put another few days on top of that. There's always a little bit of kind of like a feeling out process. I feel like so trying to just stay ahead of that has been the message, whether that means, and these guys were all, working out over the break, albeit, not against live pitching, but I think trying to just have some work set up to simulate that a little bit in terms of machine work and things like that. But yeah, when you play every day, you kind of understand that, it takes a little bit of that game speed to kind of catch up with everybody. Definitely the first day back for both sides, I think. And, hopefully you hit the ground running. But the message is just make sure that you're prepared because it has been a few days since you've been doing this.
John, we know that Joey Votto is with AAA Buffalo tonight. What boxes does he still have to check before we see him in the majors? Or to be frank, is that going to depend on whether or not some moves are made around Joey Votto?
Yeah, and I think for one, just feeling good every day and continuing to progress from a health standpoint, recovery standpoint. I don't think we would have bumped him up there if he wasn't comfortable with facing that level of pitching and competition just yet. And again, we're talking about, borderline Hall of Famer here when it's all said and done. He's going to have a pretty good idea of how he's feeling. So just in going back to, his initial conversation with us in spring training, he wants to, put up numbers and have some pretty good results before he does anything at the major league level. So I think we're going to be looking at how he's feeling and then, exactly what he's doing. I think if that's the case, I think you kind of work backwards a little bit in terms of how he fits in on the roster. If a guy like him is performing and feels like he can help a major league team, I think that was the initial interest in us signing him. So the fact that it's taken to this point, not ideal, but I think just, we're going to watch how he's feeling and we're going to watch what the actual results are. And if he's doing well, it's going to be pretty apparent that he's in a good spot.
John, as always, we appreciate you doing this. And as always, go get him.
Yeah. Good luck, John.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
John Schneider, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. So there you are from John Schneider. The roster moves are official. Eric Swanson and Jimmy Garcia are back with the Blue Jays. Jimmy Garcia could not get back here soon enough. Zach Pop and Brandon Eisert sent out. Bo Bichette is in the lineup, hitting 5th tonight against Jack Flaherty. This is the Blue Jays lineup. Again, a 7:07 first pitch. Springer, Horwitz, Guerrero, Turner. He's DHing. Bichette, Varsho, Kirk, Clement, Kiermaier, and as I mentioned, Chris Bassett on the mound for the Blue Jays. So let's talk a little bit, Kevin, about the decisions surrounding the bullpen. No surprise, Jimmy Garcia was going to get here as soon as he was ready. Some of us thought he might be here on the weekend before the All-Star break, but really at this time, if you need extra time, you give it to him.
Yep.
Eric Swanson, though, has not been good at AAA. I don't even want to read out the numbers, but he's not been good.
No. Is that a bad year?
But yet you said something off the air and we were talking about that. You'd still basically rather have him than Zach Pop right
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that's the wrong way to say it. Yeah, I think Swanson is having a bad year who's a decent pitcher. I think there's a big difference, right? Can you see an upside? Yeah, you could see an upside if the split finger's splitting. If it ain't splitting, it's got for Swanson. If it ain't splitting, then he's not a very good pitcher, and that's been the problem all year. The velocity is what the velocity is with him, and location of the fastball is what it is. It's the split finger. It's feeding off of that. It's the different quadrants north and south with the fastball tunneling the split finger off of that 2 locations of the fastball. It's just when you use him, how you work him, man. Zach Pop, for me, I don't know when you use him. Like, do you trust him getting a good left-handed hitter out in the meat of the order? I don't. Like, listen, what's he going to give you to get you out? I mean, we've heard anything from, you'd like to see him thrown in the 9th inning in the minor leagues to when he gets to the big leagues, you got no idea.
I mean, guys
what he's going to give you.
Guys like Zach Pop are why AAA exists.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If it's me, I've said this, and I think I send him down to AAA and I say, you're my ninth inning guy. Have at it. Let's see what's there. And, again, maybe there's nothing there. That's fine. But see what you got. I mean, at some point, you're going to have somebody else in this bullpen who's capable of pitching in the 8th and 9th inning because you're not going to have Jimmy Garcia next year. So send Zach Pop down there and just give him nothing but leverage.
Maybe they know what Zach is already. Maybe they know what that is already. Maybe
release him if you know what he is already.
Well, I mean, you got to have a little bit of depth in case somebody that gets hurt and you need a call up. Come on, like you need.
I'm saying
guys at the minor league level that you can call up that are hard throwers that have a different arm angle that can get righties out.
Let him go and give him some leverage.
Come on, look.
Why not? What's going to you worried all of a sudden about the Buffalo Bison's postseason chances? Give him some leverage. See what he is.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to give him in the minor leagues. Is he a ninth inning guy? Probably not, but they'll give him some high leverage, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, whatever that inning is, whenever they want to bring him in to whoever they want to put him in against to get guys out. I think at the big league level, they might know who he is already. I mean, they're trying to invent ways to keep the sinker in the strike zone, right? A lot of the times it's non-competitive, and no matter how much it moves arm side, if you're a legitimate big league hitter, meat of the order, you're not swinging at that, and then you have to invent other pitches, which is why, Pete Walker has, I don't want to say forced him to throw cutters, but, strongly encouraged him to throw it to get guys to swinging at the sinker no matter where it's located. So, yeah, look, I think that's, I hate to say that 4A thing because I was lumped into that when I was a baseball player, but that might be where Zach is. Like he is, is he good enough to pitch at the big league level? I mean, if he was, he'd be here, right? I mean, they wouldn't send him down no matter what. What's he going down there to work on? Tell me what he's working on. I mean, they've thrown him everywhere. They put him in high leverage. They put him in meat of the order. He's faced bottom of the order. He's faced lefties. He's faced righties. And what else they need to – so that for me is, right, they think right now bringing Swanson here with Pete Walker is more beneficial than keeping Zach Pop here. So – it is what it is for me.
Predictably already, people are whining that Davis Schneider isn't in the lineup. Davis Schneider is like 7th for his last 41 with 1 RBI.
I will say Zach Pop and Davis Schneider are sort of lumped in together. You know what Davis Schneider is now?
I think you do.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. In a big at-bat, he's easy to pitch to. I mean, let's not lie about it. Like, and Flaherty's really good. The slider and the knuckle curve and the elevated four-seamer, you're getting a bunch of them. And
Davis Schneider is hitting 217 this year.
Yeah, is he an everyday player? No, not for me. He's not. Like again, it gets back to that. How much more do you have to run him out there? No, they're gonna. Like he's got a chance if he gets hot and the timing's right with the natural uppercut being a right-handed hitter on some certain quadrants with the certain pitch and them trying to line him up and match him up against the right arm slot and all those kind of things. You'll have success, and it is everywhere else. And this dude is going to throw a bunch of knuckle curves, tunneling off the four-seamer, have the slider going down the way. Davis Schneider consistently shown you that he can take a slider the other way and lay off an elevated four-seamer. Not for me. So this is what it is, right? I'm not saying they're trying to win baseball games, but, it might be coming to the fact here where it's a little bit of you might know what a guy is already, and when you want to play him, you're going to play him. Simple.
Yeah. No, listen, I think that
Davis Schneider done enough to be your everyday left fielder next year. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. So, like, he's probably on your team.
It's definitely on my team.
Absolutely, right? But an everyday guy, absolutely not.
Yeah, he and right now, he and Ernie Clement are definitely on my team. Are they starting every day? Nope. And that's just where we are.
Yeah.
Spencer Horwitz, he's starting every day for me right now. But
he's left-handed. That helps a lot. He doesn't have an obvious hole, right? He doesn't mind the elevated fastball. He don't mind the backdoor slider from a righty. He don't care about the curveball or slider from a lefty going down and away, right? He can use the entire field. Optically, it's a little bit easier to run him out there, right? Davis Schneider, I mean, John's come on our show how many times and said, how many times is Davis, whenever Hazel May or whoever wants to stick a microphone in his face, he says the exact same thing. I got a giant hole. It's an elevated fastball. Well, how's that going to change? Like, I think there's a big enough sample size here that now it's about matchups and trying to get him in the, in the lineup at the right time against the right guy, and hopefully he can help the team win a baseball game.
I mean, I really like Davis Schneider coming off the bench, and I don't mean that. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I like being able to pick my spots.
Well,
with
most of the time,
Schneider,
them dudes coming out of the pen are stuff guys. They're not pitchers, right?
Exactly.
They're going to try and stuff you to death.
Exactly.
That means I'm going to grip it and rip it. I may overthrow it. It may be right down the middle. Gives him a better chance to, sort of stay away from the obvious weakness. So, yeah, that's a great call, right? And I'm sure that's the way if somebody's going to ask John about that, that's the way John will sell it. And I don't know how people can argue that. Like, they're giving him a chance to run him out for him to go out there and prove that he's an everyday guy. Honestly, he is. Not for me, but he's obviously good enough to be on your team and a big-time threat. Like you said, maybe coming off a bench. And nobody hates him in the clubhouse, which seems to be a big, giant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and again, I will say this. The trade deadline is 12 days away. I don't read at this point. I think there's kind of a danger in reading too much into how John Schneider's using guys, because the trade deadline is a factor here. That's the reason that you saw the Jays change their rotation around. They're giving Yusei Kikuchi an extra start before the deadline. They're giving Chris Bassett an extra start before the deadline. That's not accidental. So I would just say that I would keep that in mind right now. That part of this deal is showing teams that dudes are still healthy. Like, I think Kevin Kiermaier is going to get a lot of playing time because they want to move Kevin Kiermaier. They
trying
want to show
hard.
people that he's healthy.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
To be fair, for the people that are complaining about Davis Schneider not playing, though, I think fans of the Jays are sort of begging a little bit just to see what the future might look like. Continue to run sort of the same young guys out there over and over and over again. And I'm with you. This time of the year, what they're trying to do, where they're at as an organization, I think maybe it's better off that you may know where Davis is, right? And that what Davis has going forward with your organization, and you trying, like you said, to maybe trade a couple of guys. And once they are traded, then you may see Davis being ran out there every single day, which is what fans are wanting. And I'm not arguing that. No, I'm just saying that, right now I think you know what he is.
Yeah, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised either way. My gut tells me that we're going to see a ton of Davis Schneider after the trade
Absolutely,
deadline.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And not at all.
I mean, he's gonna work his tail off. He'll hustle. We'll never have fans calling the show after the game.
He'll never
yelling about Davis not doing things he's not supposed to be doing. So I'm all for that.
This weekend, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, the Western Canadian Baseball League will hold its All-Star Game at Siemens Stadium. This is the home stadium for the Okotoks Dogs. Now, the Western Canadian Baseball League is an Alberta-based league, and it is a summer collegiate league. And you played in the Summer Collegiate League in Maryland, did you not?
I was 15.
Huh?
I was 15 years old, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
In the Collegiate League?
I don't know. I don't remember what exactly it was. It was
a wood bat league, right?
Yeah, it was. It was an advanced league trying to get to get better offers to go to college, and it worked. Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly what this league is. The Okotoks Dogs, though, they had 6 players drafted in the recent draft. They also had a free agent signing in the recent MLB draft as well. We mentioned Matt Stairs is in Okotoks for the All-Star Game this weekend. There's a home run derby. He also put on a hitting clinic today. This is going to be a lot of fun. He's one of our favorites. Mm-hmm. Loved covering this guy. Loved talking with him. Matt Stairs joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. A reminder, we will go to the back leg line later on in the show. 416-413-3959. 707 is the first pitch tonight. From the Rogers Center. It is an Apple TV game. It will be available.
Sorry.
Yeah. Barker's editorial comment for the day. It will be available on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Tune in there.
We'll be doing the post-game show following the game.
From the field.
Blue Jays talk. From the field. There you go. So again, 7:07 is the first pitch. Jays against the Detroit Tigers, the post-All-Star break portion of the season, which is a lot harder to say in the second half of the season, but realistically, this is not actually
66 games left, so it's not second.
66 games.
Second half already.
Plenty of time. It's early. Western Canadian Baseball League is Canada's preeminent summer collegiate league. It is holding its All-Star Game this Saturday at Siemens Stadium. That is the home of the Okotoks Dogs. This is a league that is based in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and Siemens Stadium. I just checked it out online. It's a gorgeous-looking place.
Tremendous.
It's voted the best summer collegiate stadium in North America by Ballpark Digest. As part of the festivities, our next guest is there. He had a hitting clinic, put on a hitting clinic today, and he's serving as an ambassador for the event. And we're very pleased to be joined by Matt Stairs, Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer, former Toronto Blue Jay. Matt, as always, it's great to talk to you. I trust that you're keeping well. We trust that you're keeping well. Very simple question, just to get it going. What have you been up to lately?
Gentlemen, thanks for having me on. What have I been up to? That's a loaded question. A lot of stuff. Golf, doing some baseball. I'm the technical director in Fredericton, New Brunswick, with there's probably about 680 kids, 700 kids. Get the chance to go to the ballpark every night and work with kids from 6 to 18 years old and try to give them some knowledge towards baseball. So it's been a busy summer, but it's been a blast.
Matt, it's interesting because, I think a lot of people look at baseball in Canada and they think, okay, Toronto, Vancouver, maybe a little bit Quebec, and I know we've talked about this. I've told people, you go down to the Maritimes, there's a ton of baseball played in the Maritimes. Every small town in Western Canada has a team, whether it's a senior men's team or a junior team. I don't think people really do understand how widespread the sport is in this country, do they?
No, I don't. I believe they don't. And honestly, I just learned about it probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago. And took a big interest in it, especially here with the Okotoks Dogs. It's an amazing program. The league, the WCBL is a tremendous league, and there's a lot of talented players. I mean, I think the Okotoks Dogs had 6 guys drafted this year in the draft, and one signed as a free agent with the Blue Jays. So it just tells you that there's so much talent. Throughout, even though there might be Americans or Canadian kids, but this is an opportunity to play baseball and to have a program. I'm jealous. I wish we had this in the Maritimes. It'd be amazing.
Stairsy, how has instruction changed since you started playing baseball until now?
You talking about hitting wise or just all around?
Yeah, absolutely. When you were talking about the hitting part of it, and it's not when we played, it's not see ball, hit ball anymore. Like I'm sure you're trying to teach a little bit of that, especially to the 6-year-olds. But then you get up in age, and now it's launch angle and overthinking it. Is it harder to teach certain age groups than it used to be?
I don't think so. By the way, it's nice to talk to you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
A long time.
Yeah.
I think it's an area where, you kind of pick your poison. Each kid has a different swing path, depending on their sizes as well, if they hit for power. I think a lot of my point I try to drive into the kids is that, first of all, ask how many home runs you hit. Well, I got 1. Well, do you consider yourself a home run hitter? Well, no. And so why are we trying to hit home runs? So, basically I go old school. I start from, the bottom and up. I start at the feet with balance. I find that nowadays a lot of young kids, they don't have their back foot at a 90-degree angle. It's open, which causes, in and out of the zone. And, I'm a firm believer of a two-handed swing and finishing high. I explain to them, I understand the new technology. Do I agree with it? To a certain degree. Very little, I guess. But, it's just something where, you want these kids to get in there and feel comfortable and be relaxed and see the ball and have a good approach. And that's one thing I try to push into the noggins is that it's all about your approach. Hit off your strength and not be in a hurry to hit. And it's gone well. I mean, I think it's easier because I had good success in my career in major leagues, hitting the old school way. But they come up today, and we had 92 kids at the camp, and I mean they were They were awake. They were asking questions. They were learning things going on. At the end, we asked the questions about, what do you think you need to work on? And they had great memory. So the camp today went extremely well. And, Kev, I'm never going to change. I'm going to teach a simple way of hitting and to stay to the middle and learn how to drive the baseball properly, and it's been going well.
Yeah, if you had to teach a young person how to hit velocity, is it the same kind of conversation? It just sounds like you said the two-handed finish. I never could do that. I wasn't limber enough. I always had to be a one-handed finish pronate guy. I just couldn't. I wasn't limber enough to have the big barrel like you did, where it was just the force of the barrel was being stopped by your back. I just was never limber enough to do that like you were. Do you have a piece of advice, say, for a family member who's trying to teach a young person, because it is the era of velocity? You know that, Stairsy, like nobody's business, and you have to sort of figure out how to beat the guy to the spot. What would be the piece of advice you would give a young person just starting out when it just comes to simplifying, how do I hit velocity?
My theory, and that's a tremendous question, and I love to talk about this. Everyone thinks that the harder somebody throws, I have to swing harder to get to the baseball. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand, and one thing that we don't teach enough in, from 6 all the way up, is that the lower half, your hips create better bat speed. So you still can take a normal swing. I teach the explosion of the back hip. And I call, if you don't use the explosion of the lower half and you just kind of have lazy hips, you're going to get beat. So you think you have to swing harder with your upper body, and you will never get caught up to a fastball. My approach now is that if you set up a Votto machine, whatever it is for whatever age, if they really concentrate on just firing your back hip to the pitcher, your bat will pick up bat speed tremendous without even extra effort. I used to take 500 swings a day, and people say, well, how did you manage? Didn't you get tired? No, because it's all about your hips. And if you look at a lot of major league hitters, their hip rotation for velocity is why they catch up to so many fastballs that are in the mid-90s, upper 90s, and low hundreds. It's not because they're using their upper body swinging so hard to get the ball. It's just that technique of lower half. The lower half explosion picks up the bat speed, which causes you to get to the ball quicker. So that's one thing we've been trying to teach a lot, and that's one thing I preached today. That's one thing I preach with all the kids back home in Fredericton, because they're not taught how to use the lower half. And I've had pretty good success with it right now, and guys now are realizing that they're out in front of, BP, or they're out in front of soft toss. That's because now you have better bat speed. Now it's just a matter of letting the ball get deep a little bit and trusting your hands. And that's the biggest thing. Once kids trust their hands when they're hitting, they'll take off from there. But it takes a while.
Matt, how much tee work did you do coming up, and then when you were in the majors?
Early in my career, I didn't do a lot of tee work. I did a lot of soft toss, a lot of batting practice. But later on, I realized that and I have a theory with hitting off the tee, is that I always start off a tee when I was playing towards my end of my career. I start with my weakness. So where did I struggle with hitting the ball the worst? Let's say if it was lower half, low and away, I would work with that swing until I found the proper swing path. I think a lot of people hit off the tee wrong because they stand too close to the baseball, and 2, they ended up, when you stand too close, you don't get that freedom in your swing. So I teach, and I did it myself, and you ask people in Toronto, I used to hit off a tee in Toronto every day at home plate with the fungo, and I would try to hit the ball as far as I could to left center. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, was getting that freedom of swinging, of no resistance, not blocking myself from swinging. So hitting off a tee, I did a ton of it towards the end of my career because I realized how important it was. And let's face it, the ball's not moving. Mm-hmm. It's the only time you can work on a drill mechanically. You can work on certain things. You don't have to worry about swinging and missing or the ball moving or getting beat. So I would start where I struggled. I would make the horseshoe back into where my strength was, and I would work the left center, right center. That's one thing that people don't realize is that, hey, hit the ball to right field. Kids don't know how to hit the ball to right field. But if you think about driving the ball to left center, right center with authority, it all connects into a swing. So I found that tee work was extremely important for me in my career. not gonna lie, I still hit off the tee at times when I demonstrate on with drills with kids. And I honestly believe it's. If you ask Chase Utley, who played for the Phillies, his tee work was phenomenal. He worked day in and day out on tee work, and it helps out players a lot just to repeat your swing.
Stairs, do you like where the game's at now? Like when you watch a game on TV, do you like watching baseball now?
I don't watch baseball anymore.
No?
Honestly, I watch a little. I follow it, of course, but I don't watch a lot of it because let's face it, back when we played and we struck out, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And now it's a normal thing that, I had a couple of good swings and I struck out, but I had a good pass to a ball, 0-1 or whatever it is. And see, I'm old school, so I still like the small ball. I still like moving runners over. I still, rely on my teammate behind me. Bases loaded. Too many guys are trying to get 3-4 runs and they're coming up empty. And you see it all the time in the big leagues that it's men on third base. They're trying to hit one at the ballpark and they're walking away, dragging their bat, not getting any. That's the area where I have the frustration with, is because when I was with the San Diego Padres, they didn't believe in advancing runners. And I had a hard time when I was a hitting coach there, because if I had a man on second base, I wanted the ball driven to right center. If you hit a double, perfect. You hit a single, it's even better. It's great. But now it's like you get check marks for getting a fastball and popping up the left field because you attacked the baseball. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, those things bother me a little bit with hitting wise. Now, it is extremely hard to hit nowadays. Mm-hmm. These knuckleheads on the mound throwing 100 miles an hour, and with the spin rate, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Spin rate's been around 100 years. But my God, they throw hard.
Yeah.
Like, we played at the right time.
Absolutely.
We really did. And what I'm so impressed with Major League hitters is how good they are and how good the hitters they can be. It's just a matter, I like to see them back off a little bit and not worry about getting the ball in the air so much. Look at the numbers, break the numbers down. Average with balls in the air, probably about 150. Line drives are about 750. So why don't we teach kids to hit line drives, and let's teach MLB players get back to hitting line drives, which turn into home runs.
Okay.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you're about to answer. You maybe just answered my next question. The elevated fastball. You just mentioned the velocity in baseball and how hard they consistently throw, and then you add the elevated fastball to it. When me and you played, that was a no-no. Like, you don't throw it up there. It's easy to get, under that ball. You can hit that ball in the air, because they didn't throw as hard. It was a little easier for us to let it travel, see it a little bit longer, give us a little bit of better chance of making up our mind of what we wanted to do with that. If you were playing today, being a left-handed hitter with the big finish that you had, and they were throwing you a bunch of those velocity elevated fastballs, could you adjust to that, say, in an at-bat or in a season, to maybe either get them off of that or maybe do some damage on that part of the strike zone?
Well, now, see, you're talking, for a left-handed hitter, it's extremely hard to hit a high fastball.
It is, yeah.
It really is. It's easier for a right-handed hitter because he's right-handed dominant, and he gets to be able to get that hand on top of the ball. Everyone thought I had an uppercut swing. I just finished high, and I didn't mind the high fastballs. Could I walk in the batter's box now and try to get on top of a fastball that's 97 top of the zone? No chance. But I think over time, and that's what they learned, that new swing path, the reverse Ferris wheel to get the bat on the plane as soon as possible and rotate that way. That helped. I believe that helped quite a bit. It's tough for a left-hander because when you're getting the bat flat and you're rotation, a lot of hitters are pulling out. That's the reason why they had so many, shifts in baseball. But, it's still the philosophy of, yes, I was a dead pull hitter, and yes, I hit home runs, and I finished high, so everyone thought I had the old softball swing and whatever. People have their own opinion. But if you're still working the middle of the field, like if you're thinking about driving the ball to left center, right center, and think about just driving it that way, you stay through the zone longer, and it gives you a better chance to catch up to the high fastball. High fastballs are hard to hit. And that's the reason. I like to see what the average is throughout Major League Baseball. For above average fastball on top of the zone, it's probably not very good.
No, under 200.
Easily. But I think you're starting to see more sinkers coming back. You're starting to see more changeups coming back because the hitters figured out how to hit that fastball. Now they got to learn how to hit the two-seamer and the changeup like we had to do back in the day. So it's the game has changed that way. I don't dislike baseball. I still think it's a great sport, still the second greatest sport in the world behind hockey. But, it's one of those things where it's just, I watched that Verlander interview and he was talking about the spin rate, and spin rate's been around for a long time. We just didn't know about it back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Or we didn't talk about it.
Well, it was
we
the
didn't
only
quantify it.
Well, Stairs, you know what it was? It was only the elite pitchers in baseball that could do that. Now it's almost everybody doing it. That's the difference. Yeah.
And everyone's blowing out.
Yeah. That's it.
So, but listen, the game is still great. It's still going it's still in a good spot. I just, I would like to see baseball come back to where, let's not rely on the person in the batter's box so much. Let's rely on your teammates behind you. And if I had it my way, I would take every single iPad and I would bust them like there's no tomorrow. Because if you're sitting there hitting, me having this, and I'll probably never ever get a chance to be a hitting coach again. But if you're sitting there and you hit a ball to the moon, what's the first thing they do? They come back and grab the iPad and watch the iPad. Well, they're not watching the guy in front of them or behind you hitting. So you're not being a good teammate, and you're not being a student of the game of watching how guys are being pitched in front of you or behind you and learning that way how we were taught. Like I was taught, to watch the game and how, right-handers are starting off left-handed hitters. And the iPad thing is just now it's basically you're going to get ticked off and get mad at an umpire because you missed the pitch, or it's a dig me tape where you hit a home run and you're sitting there, jewels coming out of your mouth because you're happy you hit a home run. Whatever. Watch that after the game.
Matt,
you're the best.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you're the best. That's tremendous.
Listen, and believe me, it's shared by a lot of people.
It is.
Including people in this sitting in this room.
Absolutely.
Matt, thanks for doing this, man. It's really good to talk to you again. Be well.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, see you, buddy.
All righty. There you go. Matt Stairs, Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer. Again, Saturday, the Okotoks Dogs are hosting the Western Canadian Baseball League All-Star Game. And just as Matt was talking, I got this sent to me. Players who were drafted, who have a link to this league. Nathan Flewelling was the third-round pick, a 94th overall, the Tampa Bay Rays. Mm-hmm. He's a catcher. He's playing in Sylvan Lake this season. He was a guy that the Rays took right in front of the Blue Jays, and there was a lot of thought that the Blue Jays were going to grab him. Yeah. Sam Sturr, who went in the 5th round to the Oakland Athletics, played for Okotoks in 2022. And the thing is, it's a college league, so a lot of the guys in the league are from the States. There's a couple of kids from Minnesota who are drafted, a couple of kids from Ohio, in addition to the Canadian kids that were taken as well. So, it's and Micah McDowell, a kid from Nova Scotia who first played for the Okotoks Dogs in 2019. Mm-hmm. So the Dogs are part of that. They're part of sort of the whole Canadian national junior team development system. You got a lot of guys that go from here, go on to college, or guys who play in the summer when they're in college. And it's a great league. The All-Star Game will be a lot of fun. And they had a hitting clinic today with Matt Stairs. And I mean, I was lucky enough to cover Matt when he was with the Expos. Just came back from Japan. He was with the Expos and the Blue Jays. Yeah, and
I played with
his Twitter handle, his Twitter, is professional hitter. That's all it says.
It's tremendous. It's tremendous. Because towards the end of my career when I did play with him, I was sort of picking his brain about the pinch
he's a lefty.
hitting.
He's a lefty.
Yeah. Hitter. I mean, he was a little different hitter than most. He could not do a ton, walk to the plate, and still hit a ball to the moon. Like he was a little different, right? He had a little shorter in stature, and everything was happening in a phone booth, and he could sit and spin occasionally and get to that big finish that he's talking about with the two hands. It's just the mindset of what you look for and how you're trying to set a certain guy up. He was facing most of the time the hardest throwers. Now, they all throw hard most of the time now, even the starters do. But then it was, how do you get ready for velocity? And that's that's a neat conversation about the back hip. I talk about that a lot when you ask me about offensive parts of, just how it frustrates me so much whenever I hear that new stat about the bat speed and people talking about that. and the first thing they talk about is how hard you're swinging and how hard you should swing. That's not how you go up and hit velocity. It's just not. Like, you do it with your lower half. Your hands are going to follow what your lower half is doing. And for Matt to talk about the hips and starting with the back hip, Bo talks about that a lot whenever I talked about with Bo Bichette about offensive playing and how he's trying to, get it in back and lead with the back elbow, and it starts with the back hip and all those kind of things. So it's just kind of cool to listen to an old school guy still talk about baseball and hitting the way he talks about it. It's pretty cool.
We're going to be joined by David Samson in the next hour. We'll also go to the back leg line. I've got Jays tickets to give away, but wanted to mention this. This is from Ben Nicholson Smith. Blue Jays manager John Schneider says Ricky Tiedemann is headed for a second opinion on his pitching elbow. Details
Never good
to be revealed. That's never good.
Mm-hmm.
And IKF is apparently ready to resume baseball activities, so that is good. Let me ask you now. Okay, we don't know what his return to active status would be. If you are the Blue Jays, like if I'm a contending team, and I look at the year IKF's had, I'm at least calling about him, aren't you?
To do what?
To be as a bench guy. As a bench guy.
Well, you get more for him or Turner?
I think you might get more for IKF.
You think so? Who would you rather have if you're a contender against a tough left-handed pitcher in the seventh inning? Who would you rather have up? Experienced guys won a World Series or IKF?
The other thing is IKF's under contract for next year as well.
It'll cost you a little bit more, right? The extra prospect, that kind of thing. You'd have to throw in some money.
Probably at that point, because if I was
somebody needs to play next year.
If I was a contending team, I'd probably go with Turner.
I mean, I don't think either one would get you, a ton. And again, you got to remember there is 2025. Some dude's got to play. You got to have experience somewhere playing on your team, right? You can't bring every young guy you got up and try and fill in the blanks. I mean, Bo Bichette may get traded in the offseason. If that happens, he's playing short next year.
Well, you'll end up.
I mean, it's like, again, I get what you're saying. Like, you'll fill in the blanks, and hopefully you get enough haul back that would be able to play where Bo's playing. But point is, I just don't think you can give up everybody. And Turner's not going to be back next year, and I'm sure there'll be a team that needs a right-handed bat off the bench. And Turner, the way he has that at bat now, will it be productive? Who knows? But we've seen 10, 11, 12 pitch at bats. That's what you need in September and October. Like, you need a battler, right? A guy that's been there and done it before. Bright light's not going to bother you. Like, he could tone it down enough to give you that kind of at bat. So I like IKF next year, too. I wouldn't mind him playing third, occasionally second against a tough left-handed hitter. Move him around a little bit. Shortstop,
right.
too. Bo's not here.
This team's going to have a lot of next year.
So you need another guy to fill in the blank? I mean, man. Like, we're just going down the list here of things they need.
Given the way things have gone, if they get rid of IKF, they'd probably end up just bringing in another IKF to replace him anyhow. So
it looks that way.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. 416-413-3959 is the back leg line. We will go to it in the second half of the hour. Again, tonight's game is a 7:07 first pitch. Is an Apple TV game. You can hear it on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet.
Listen hard.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We got friends over there.
But
come on.
I'd rather them. We're tooting Sportsnet.
I know.
Rather you tune in.
Anyhow, we'll be along to do Blue Jays talk following.
I'm sure we'll have something y'all scream about.
Oh, probably. It is Chris Bassett against Jack Flaherty.
What could go wrong? Chris hasn't pitched in 8 days, so what could go wrong? Man,
he's rested.
Yeah. That's worse. Mentally, he's rested.
We've got Jays tickets to give away. We've got David Samson. We've got the back leg line.
Don't go anywhere.
We got all sorts of stuff. Don't go anywhere. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. The Sports. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker for Friday. Barker and I were just telling Calgary Stampede stories. I was telling him about my experience. My limited experience when I lived and worked in Calgary with the Stampede.
Be nice.
It was awful.
Jesus. You can be nice.
Yeah, it was just awful.
Sugar-coated.
It was just awful. It really was.
I don't believe that second part you told me.
A bunch of city people pretending that they're cowboys.
I don't believe that other part you were telling me.
It's like cosplay, you know? It's like going to a Star Wars convention or something. It really is. Anyhow, enough of that. 7:07 is the first pitch tonight. from the Rogers Center. It is an Apple TV game, but Mr. Barker and what did I say? Cosplay. Whatever. Cosplay, whatever the hell it is.
You can't even speak.
Well, I mean,
you try to bust on
we
him.
never
You can't
did
even
it.
say it
We
right.
never did it when we were young. We never did it when we were young, right? We had important stuff to do.
Really?
Anyhow, 7:07 is the first pitch tonight. The post All-Star break portion
Number one,
of the season.
you're old.
Let's bring in David Samson. He's host of Nothing Personal, the podcast with David Samson. Hello, David. How you doing?
I am good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing well. I'm just every day somebody reminds me that my life experience is just not just nobody else's life experience anymore.
One of a kind.
It is one of a kind.
Are you feeling sorry for yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
no question.
Friday. Only days. I only feel sorry for myself in days that end in Y. Other than that, I'm okay. I know you talked about this in your podcast. Kevin and I were madly texting during the home run derby.
Yeah.
I said to Kevin, am I the only one finding this boring as hell?
Nope.
And I started to think, as a basketball fan, I know you are too. I remember when the slam dunk competition was like, we'd get together and, the boys over and you're going to watch a slam dunk competition. Now it's basically the slam dunk competition. It's like a G League All-Star competition for the most part. A bunch of guys that you're never going to hear dunking a basketball. David, is the home run derby, does it need to be fixed in your mind, or are the numbers as they are right now, the TV numbers, good enough that they'll just kind of keep going on and making minor tweaks here and there?
Oh, the trend is not their friend. It's going down. And I think when you talk about the slam dunk contest, you're being nostalgic for a time when there were stars in that contest.
Yeah, that's right.
You had Michael Jordan and you had Dominique Wilkins, and it was must-see TV. And what I was thinking during the home run derby is I like watching these guys play, the 8 players, but was there an actual star participating? No. Where was Harper? And I understand why these guys didn't do it. I really do. I spent so much time with Stanton when he won the home run derby. I was there in 2016 in San Diego. He was exhausted. It did not impact his game. You don't get hurt. You don't go in a slump. It doesn't change your swing. And the MLB and the union tried to increase the prize money, and it meant something to Bobby Witt Jr., who's an up-and-coming star who would have liked the money. Teoscar wanted to be in it very badly, but these guys are not revenue drivers at the moment, and I think that's really what was missing. In addition, one last thing, I love the outs more than the clock. The combination of the clock and the outs, you could tell how great the bonus round was. The players were just more relaxed. When the clock was going on with only 40 pitches, it just felt a little rushed and a little boring.
How about David? Whenever I watch a home run derby, I want to see how far they hit it, not how many they hit. How does Major League Baseball? I would think if you have less people in it, eliminate the clock, and say, I don't know how it would be. Give them this amount of swings. Maybe you would get, say, 6 of the best stars in all of baseball who can hit the ball to the moon. If I were a fan of just sports in general, I would want to watch somebody hit a ball to the moon. How do they fix it and get it back to that?
Yeah, I didn't like the camera angle. I couldn't really see the balls land. I had an idea that instead of counting home runs, we count feet, or in Canada, we count yards. And whoever hits the longest in terms of total yards in a period of time can advance, because there'd be a premium, and the bonuses would come after 450 feet or yards. I'm not doing the calculation right now. I've been out of Montreal for 2 decades, but I think you know where I'm going. I love the moonshots. I want to see people rake. And the other thing I came up with is no more batting practice pitchers. I want to put a pitching machine on the mound.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I want to do that is I want each player, and I know it takes time to calibrate the machine, but I want the players to get it right where they want it every single time. I don't want the BP pitchers to throw a no-hitter. I want the hitters to have it. If they like it down and in, I want it 85 miles per hour right where the player wants it, and watch them absolutely hit moonshots.
You know what? The thing that I really miss with the home run derby as well, and this is maybe, again, old baseball fan talking. I like watching them watch the ball leave. And what I find with the clock is a lot of time, it's like Jose Ramirez. I mean, if you hit a home, I want to see him enjoy it. And with the clock, I just got the impression it was, okay, I got to swing again. I got to get set. There's another ball going out of the park. Okay, I got to swing another. And that, to me, that takes something away from it as a baseball fan. The sense that I'm being rushed, I didn't like that.
It's true.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this was under 3 hours. There were times when the home run derby was over 3 hours, 3.5 hours. They're trying to get it inside a broadcast window of 3 hours. They were successful in doing that. But I did think the pacing was tough. And I did find it a little more boring than I would have liked. And I attribute that to stars and to the way to the new rules.
And you pay them more. I mean, is $1 million enough? I mean, if you paid them a little bit more, even the dudes that are making $300 million because they love money so much, maybe they'd come. I mean, I love money.
Listen, $1 million's not too shabby.
Well, I know it is.
Go on an island for 39 days to win $1 million. I mean, that is not too shabby to win the home run derby. Now, interestingly enough, there's a huge drop off between winning it and then participating. So you could increase the prize pool. So even those like a Pete Alonso would get remunerated heavily, even for losing in the first round.
So, David, we are the regular season is resuming tonight. The Jays are playing the Tigers here. It's resuming everywhere around Major League Baseball after the All-Star break. What did you, when you were a baseball executive, what did you need to see coming out of the All-Star break from your team? And I understand it must be, it's probably different whether the team is good and contending or whether the team is not good or whether the team is rebuilding. But what did you look for out of the gate after the All-Star break?
I looked for confirmation bias, that everything that I've imagined about the team is right. And if it's wrong so far, so Toronto's a great example. If you go into the season thinking they're competing for the division title, and then you get to the All-Star break and you're forget division title, you're in last place and you don't really have a shot at the wild card, what you're saying to yourself is, okay, we're, 10 days from the deadline. Let's go 9-1 and make me right. Because I don't want to go 5-4, 4-5, and then confirm what I sort of suspected, that this is not our year. We would call it the LG. It's the last gasp right after the All-Star break, where you are trying to prove that what you were, if it was bad, was wrong. And if you were good and you weren't supposed to be like the Guardians, let's say, what you're looking for is, hey, let's make sure that that was not a mirage. Let's confirm that what we think is that we're seeing is really what's happening.
So you made your mind up already. Say the Jays. Jays are what, 8 under 500. They're 14 back in the East. They're 9.5 back of the wild card. They have 6 teams in front of them. We've talked about what you look at when it comes to 9.5 back and 6 teams in front. They can't change your mind. Like going into this thing, the 4 days off, you've made your mind up already. Basically, with a team that's like the Blue Jays.
Yeah, if you're good at your job, I mean, but listen, that's what the LG is for.
Yeah.
What happens if they become this month's Houston and they've got 10 days to do it? Remember, Houston made up 9 games in a month. They're only a game back of Seattle. Of course, they had the best month. The Mets had a great month. Then you have an okay month. And then you're wondering, oh, hey, what do we have here? So this, to me, is the last gasp. It's the last little period of time before the deadline when you have to be right about how you're looking at your team.
Unless the Astros call, want to back the truck up for Vladdy. And then it's over.
Well, I always had a saying, everybody's available, just some players are less likely than others to be traded. So I never had a player who was not a trade candidate unless they had a no trade clause, which was only Stanton. And even he, if you're gonna overpay and you're willing to lose a trade because you're desperate for one of our players, I am okay with that.
You mentioned no trade clauses. How much are no trade clauses a statement of intent, or how much are they just something else, to be bargained away?
That's it. It's players. Players do it because they want to control their destiny. A lot of players do it because in addition to controlling their destiny, they get to extract another pound of a shekel. And so what a lot of players do is they put the better, bigger market teams on the no trade clause, those who would be more apt to trade for them. So then they can say, oh, you want me, Dodgers? Well, you're on my no trade list, but I'll waive it if you give me an extra year or if you guarantee my player option right now. So agents are not stupid people, and neither are players. And no trade clauses are many more times used as a sword versus a shield.
David, what have you made of Bo Bichette's season so far? I know we've had this conversation. Yeah, this is what I think. I struggled a lot when I was a player. I wasn't Bo Bichette. That's the part of it I just don't understand, David. Like, this has been going on. I tell Jeff this all the time. The amazing thing about the Blue Jays offensively is individuals struggle for months at a time. I say this to Jeff all the time. I used to struggle a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time. I wake up, my back's sore, I sleep wrong, I yell at some program, I throw my arm out of socket, it messes me up. I got to change things offensively. The Blue Jays, for whatever reason, David, they struggle for like 3 months at a time, and it starts with the dude playing shortstop. Can you figure that out? And how, if you were running the front office, would you sort of turn that around? You got to try and gain some momentum. And I would think it would start with that dude, no, going into the offseason?
So here's a question. At what point is your scouting report on the player wrong, and the year or two that was great becomes the anomaly and not the struggle? When is it possible? How many big prospects don't become huge superstars into free agency?
A lot.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's way more common for top prospects not to make it than it is for top prospects to make it. It's way more common to have a great year or two and then fizzle out than it is to put together a career. Think about Hall of Fame and then go down 3 notches to productive everyday players for many years in a row. That's really hard in our game. So I think it's possible. Is he just having a bad year? Mike, let me give you a story about Mike Lowell. You may remember him.
Yeah, yeah.
God, did I love him. When we traded Beckett to Boston, we made them take Lowell because he was owed so much money and we thought he was finished. And so we said to John Henry and Larry Lucchino, you want your pitcher, Josh Beckett? No problem. You have to take Lowell off our hands. And we had decided that he was done. And we loved him. We won a ring with him. We loved him. Guess what? He was the World Series MVP for Boston. We got it wrong. It happens all the time that you scout or think that you know what's happening in a player's career, and it turns out to be a bad year, a bad 2 years. The problem is, more times than not, the bad year, 2 years, becomes a bad career.
David, I know you're a big fan of Don Mattingly. How surprised are you that a team that has Don Mattingly as offensive coordinator, which I take to mean chief hitting coach, is just like abysmal offensively? That's the only word I can think of.
Say it,
it's
Jeff.
abysmal offensively.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Jack McKeon used to tell me, you can't win the Kentucky Derby with a bunch of donkeys.
Okay.
And that was his line to me when we would say, why aren't our guys hitting or why aren't our guys pitching? And that's what he'd answer, putting, of course, the blame on us for giving him the players who weren't good enough to win. Don Mattingly can't make bad players good. He can make good players great. And when you have a situation in a season where the slump is contagious, which is what you were talking about, it's really hard to turn that around. And it's not that they're tuning out, Donnie. I don't believe that for a minute. And it's not that they're not trying or their approach is wrong. It's just not being effectively implemented. And so it's like when you get one hit and your owner calls you and said, fire the hitting coach. And we say to the owner, man, we just got outplayed today. The pitcher was so good, DiMaggio would not have gotten a hit tonight. So is it possible that the players are fine? They're just collectively slumping? That's really up to your front office to decide. And that, to me, will be the legacy of this front office, is whether or not they agree that the window is closed with this group of players, or whether they hang on and end up being right or hang on and end up being wrong.
Yeah, it's intriguing. I got to ask about Detroit and Scooble and the rumblings that, there's some teams in on trading for him. And I just wonder about the Tigers. If not now, when, David? Like, they got one of the best pitchers in baseball. They supposedly, air quote, got one of the best managers in baseball. You just mentioned the hitting coach, and, you can't turn that into this. Well, manager's sort of the same thing, right? He's only as good as your players, that kind of thing. I just wonder, those left-handed pitchers that throw that hard don't grow on trees. And if it ain't time to win for Detroit, when is it going to be time? I just don't understand that part. Can you explain that to me?
So let's talk about him, and let's also talk about Mason Miller, because two different situations. If you're Oakland and you've got 5 years of control in Mason Miller and he's unhittable right now, if I'm Oakland, I'm moving him, because if I'm going to get a new stadium, which may or may not happen in 28 or 29, Mason Miller is not going to be the closer on that team. He's at his height in value right now, and good organizations trade players at the high, not the low. The Tigers, slightly different. They've got a young player with 2 years left until free agency. He is potentially an ace for this year and the next 2 years. His value on the trade market is highest right now with those 2 years of control. But remember, the Illiches, the dad is dead, but the Chris Illich, there's no rings there. They want to win a World Series. If you are going to win in the window, his window, before he gets too expensive, you are not going to move him now. But if you know that you don't have room in your budget to add, or there's something else going on where you don't feel as though you can take advantage of this period of time with this particular ace, then you move him. So it's going to be really telling to see what they do. Now, all of this is wrong if someone backs up the truck and makes an irresponsible offer for him, then you move him. But if it's just a regular trade, if he's moved, we know what Detroit thinks of its chances. And if he's not moved, it means that they want to keep this window open through his free agency.
Yeah. David, by all accounts, the Rays are now, I'm just reading this, they're one vote away, apparently, from officially securing their long-term home in the Tampa Bay area. A couple of questions about this. One, how surprised are you? Or first of all, are we on the cusp now of being able to say the Rays are going to stay in St. Pete and that's a done deal? But how are you surprised? Are you surprised this has been done without the team being in Tampa? Because everything I kept hearing all along was you got to have a team in Tampa because you avoid that horrible traffic, which, you know, having driven that traffic, I tend to agree with.
Here.
Are you surprised this has turned out this way, though?
It's the same reason why Marlins Park is in Little Havana, when it would have been better maybe in downtown Miami or maybe somewhere in Broward. It's hard to know, but we couldn't get a deal done with anyone but the city of Miami at the site of the old Orange Bowl. Clearly, Stu Sternberg, his first choice was not, no matter what his quotes have been, which are, this was always our intent, this is what we wanted. Building in the parking lot of where you couldn't draw when you've been a good team, that's not the number one. And remember, 4 years ago, December of 20, he said the two-city solution with Montreal was the only way to save baseball in Tampa. Obviously, that turned out not to be the case, and I get it. But this deal came together. It's going to happen. They're going to build a building, and then the problem comes. What happens if it doesn't work in the new building? And we found out in Miami that the new building didn't work, but we didn't win. With Tampa, if they win in the new building and still don't draw, that's a real problem for baseball, but it will have been kicked for a couple of years. We don't have to think about that till 28, 29, and 30. If they don't win in the new ballpark and don't draw, they can just say, well, let's wait to win. But if they win and don't draw, that's a real problem.
David, really good of you to do
wonderful.
this. As always, thanks so much. Terrific insight.
You're the best, buddy.
Have a great weekend, and don't worry, Jeff. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I know. It always turns out, doesn't it? Thanks, David. Be well.
See you later.
Bye.
David Samson. Host of Nothing Personal, the podcast with David Samson. Just because I mispronounced one thing.
You're all over the place with that. Yeah, you weren't even close.
I don't know.
Or you weren't even close. You're all fired up about something and, thought you'd throw Calgary right under the bus. I love Calgary
under the bus.
I love Calgary.
I didn't mind Calgary at all.
Huh? No?
Mountains are great. Well, that's outside of Calgary. No, I don't know. Well, it's because I got the sticker here. This ain't my first rodeo, and my water bottle we started talking about.
Why didn't you get me one? That's what I think I
stole
said
this
that.
from my
Stole
this from my daughter.
Sure.
So anyhow, that got us talking about rodeos and things like that. And it's not my first rodeo. I've been to a couple.
Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I've been to a couple too, Denver. They're fun. They're a good time. Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of feel sorry for the animals.
Only you. Like it's like
I like animals.
Okay. Yeah, we all do.
Yeah,
but
I don't mind eating them. I just don't like
went
beating
there.
them up.
You went there just to complain about it. That's basically why you went.
No, I went there because I was assigned by my newspaper.
Oh, so you're forced.
We treated it as an event that needed to be covered. I did cover a horse race there. I covered it was a thoroughbred race that wasn't attached to the Stampede, but it was held at the same time. I covered a thoroughbred race, and the horse died of an aneurysm on the track. It did, and that was the only time I'd really ever covered a horse race, and I just kind of.
The last time?
It was the last time.
Oh, okay.
I used to go to the dog tracks in Florida in spring training, but then once you find out how they're treated, it kind of loses the glamour.
Yeah.
The glamour.
I think I used to stay in the minor leagues. There was a hotel right across the street from the one in Florida. Is that the one you're talking about, the dog track?
Yeah.
It was the worst hotel I've ever stayed in. It had ants in it, and it was the worst.
Probably.
That's just not the way you're supposed to treat humans. Really. Like the last thing I was worried about was I'm talking about myself because I had a roommate, grown man with a roommate, and then there was bugs in the room. That's the only thing I remember about it.
Anyhow.
And my wife now forced me to leave the room because she's like, yeah, you ain't staying there. So
we've been giving you a chance to win tickets to see the Blue Jays all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer.
Just get it right.
To our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Standard message and data rates apply, for God's sake, people. Our last question and answer was on September 25th, 2003, this Toronto Blue Jay hit 4 home runs. That's 4 against the then Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Best hitter in the history of
Who was
the Blue
it?
Jays.
The answer was the best hitter in the history of the Blue Jays.
You think that's true? Well, you couldn't answer it.
Carlos Delgado.
Yeah, you couldn't answer that.
Best homegrown hitter?
Yeah. No, in the history of the Blue Jays. I'm not talking about homegrown. In the history of the Blue Jays.
Best homegrown hitter in the history of the Blue Jays, probably. Yeah. Anyhow. Well, again, Alomar is in the Hall of Fame, but he came from San Diego. I'm talking a guy that the Jays signed and developed. Yes.
Okay.
Today's question is
circling the wagons, basically, is what you're doing.
Is that a Stampede reference? Chuck Wagons. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Rays
about fun
at the Rogers Center on Wednesday, July 24th. This pitcher had brief stints with both Tampa Bay and Toronto, but he's known for giving up Mark McGwire's 62nd home run that broke Roger Maris's single-season record in 1998. I got this right away.
Sure you did. You're
Again, this pitcher had brief stints with both Tampa Bay and Toronto, but is known for giving up Mark McGwire's 62nd home run that broke Roger Maris's single-season record in 1998. Knowing this guy, the game probably took forever to pitch. Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Again, standard message and data rates may apply. It's Friday, which means tomorrow's Saturday, followed by Sunday.
Boy, that's why you get paid the big bucks.
Then there's Monday. It is Friday, so that means we go to the back leg line. The number is 416-413-3959. Your chance to leave questions, comments, suggestions for either of us. Although I would prefer if they go to Kevin because I'm tired of carrying the damn show today.
Yeah, you do.
Anyhow, we'll be back.
For sure.
We'll be back with the back leg line. You see what I did back with the back leg line? We'll be back with the back leg line in a few minutes. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet. It's my first day back. Give me a break. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. It's Friday. It'd be great if every week was just one day, wouldn't it?
We've had fun in here so far.
Yeah, we have. It's been a good show.
David's really good.
David's really good.
Stairsy, man, that's good. That's good stuff.
A little store the
you stayed out of the show. You stayed out of that one.
Out of the stairs one? Well, I'm not going to.
And the Samson.
No, I carried the Samson. I teed it up, but I stayed out of the stair. I'm not going to interrupt you.
I'm so tired of talking about the Tampa Bay Rays moving. I'm so tired of that. It is like, if you can't afford a baseball team, don't buy it. I mean, that's basically what this thing comes down to. Seriously.
You got to try to squeeze the city for as much money as you can.
I mean, it's like rubbing two nickels together.
Anyhow. 7:07 will be the first pitch tonight. Chris Bassett on the mound for the Blue Jays. Jack Flaherty for the Detroit Tigers. If you missed the news earlier, Bo Bichette is in the lineup. Jimmy Garcia is back. Eric Swanson is back. Zach Pop is gone. Ricky Tiedemann's going to get a second opinion on his elbow.
That's too bad, too.
And there you go.
I watched that dude up close and personal in spring training. I would love to see that.
I would too.
A
God,
really, yeah, maybe not the meat of the order of a good lineup, but say the Astros against that dude for a little while. I'd love to see it. Never going to happen, but
yeah, no, I mean,
would, it's never good. I mean, I don't know what he could change to not be hurt a ton.
Well, I mean,
I think once you just get into getting hurt, you're getting hurt.
It is a delivery. 416-413-3959. It is Friday. That is the number of the back leg line. As always, every Friday. Thanks, Mark. As always, every Friday, we go to the back leg line. Louise in Moncton. Mm-hmm. Get a starter, Louise.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about what you guys think about how the Jays are going to handle their free agents. Are they going to trade them, or are they going to offer contracts to any of them? Just your thoughts. You guys are great. Have a good day.
Mm. Thank you, Louise. Well, I mean, let's take a look at the free agents, first of all, potential free agents. You've got Jansen, Garcia, Kikuchi, Turner, Richards, and Kevin Kiermaier are all guys with Major League service time who are eligible for free agency. Just a reminder, Bo and Vladdy aren't eligible until...
Got another year.
Until next year.
Yep.
After next year.
Yep. Say no to all the above. I think the Danny Jansen thing, that seems to me like they've already offered.
No. She said, would they trade them all?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would think that, Kikuchi, Garcia, Turner definitely gone. Kiermaier, I guess if somebody wants him. Although I tend to think that we'll see. I don't want to say anything. Someone might. There's 10 days, 12 days before the trade deadline. Guy gets hurt. Somebody blows out their knee. All of a sudden, Kevin Kiermaier becomes a nice option for you.
There you go.
Fourth outfielder. I'm with you. We know that they've talked to Danny Jansen about a contract. We know that it's gotten nowhere. I need somebody to catch. And I can't catch Alejandro Kirk every day. So I would not be shocked if if they don't hang on to Danny Jansen and take the draft pick when he goes to the free agency. Just because. Now, Martin Maldonado is out there as a free agent. Maybe the Jays think, you know what, we get another catcher in here. And I mean, if you're going to trade all those guys, you're punting on the year. So it doesn't matter who catches.
They're 9.5 back. They're
it doesn't matter who catches for you. But
it doesn't.
My sense is maybe Jano
I don't think you're doing
go.
your job if you don't trade all those people.
Depends. I mean, we don't know. Again, we don't know where things stand with that. They don't have a catcher for next year. They don't. You're going to go into the free agent market. I mean, you need middle of the order hitters. You're probably going to need in the bullpen.
Use one of the guys you trade there to get you a catcher for next year. That's what you do.
Jesus.
You do a good job of relationships with other GMs. Yeah. You figure it out.
Who's going to get you an everyday catcher out of those guys?
Well, you say?
No.
I mean, you act like somebody can't push the button and block a baseball. It's the offensive part of it that you're talking about with Danny. That's a little all over the place. That's
she
it.
Asked, and I'm saying that.
Okay, well, we disagree with it.
So yeah,
we disagree.
Well, I'm just saying, don't you got to have somebody who can catch, and it isn't going to be Kirk. I mean, honest to God, at some point, you just got to punt on Kirk, even as a backup.
Man, I will say they've had 4 days off, and Kirk's starting today.
Oh, he's going to be smoking hot today. He's had 4 days off. He'll probably go 2 for 4.
Yeah, well, Danny ain't playing.
Anyhow, so that's where we are. And what I would be really interested in finding out, especially with a guy like Kikuchi, and we really don't know this, but there have been situations where teams have traded free agents and basically said to the free agent's agent, we're going to take a run at you again next year.
Yeah, again, this gets back to who's saying that. Is it going to be the same front office in the offseason? That's a giant unknown. I mean, you'd be shocked about that, right? That part of it, if there's not a different voice, a different way of thinking going into the offseason.
Well, the only reason
that different voice may be thinking differently about.
The only reason I wouldn't be shocked is because this team is going to have to. They're going to have to sign free agent pitchers next year. They just are. They got nobody in the system who's going to help. They don't.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be signing free agent pitchers.
Yep.
Or trading.
And there's 3 wild card spots. That right there makes it easier for you to give up pieces and think you can fill in the blanks in the offseason. It does.
Trevor in Toronto.
It's a great question, though.
I just want to say welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed your time off.
Thank you.
My question for you is this. If you were co-general managers for the Blue Jays, what would you do in terms of the trade deadline with this 26-man roster? Thanks. Have a great day.
Oh, if we were co-GMs, we'd have to get together. Can we agree on this?
Okay.
Can we agree?
Yeah, I don't think trading Danny Jansen or not trading him is going to ruin our relationship.
No, let me before we get to them.
Yeah.
Are we in the same page that Bo and Vladdy, that before we do anything, we've got to have an idea about whether or not it's realistic to sign them, and that Bo and Vladdy we want to move in the offseason because one we're a TV property, we got to have something that people like.
Okay.
And two, maybe we sign one of them and trade the other.
If we were co-GMs, we'd have signed Vladdy already.
That's
we
true.
would have done that a year and a half ago. So
we would have signed at least one of them a year and a half ago.
Well, you would have been in Bo camp. I would have the 3-year $33 million that we gave him. That's real happy. One's an aircraft carrier when he's doing some things, and one is hitting 5th or 6th in the order right now with Justin Turner hitting cleanup. So and Horowitz
we wouldn't trade either of them at the deadline right now.
Well, unless the Dodgers came calling, and would back up the truck for the shortstop. Absolutely, if he's 100% healthy, and the relationships with your best players have to be at the highest point.
It's getting complicated.
Well, it's not really because it's about
relationships. Fired. I'm the GM of the team.
It's about relationships. I mean, this is a great point by Trevor,
but
there's no right now. There's no untouchables.
No.
If somebody comes to call him for Barrios, this is a golden opportunity with now being able to sell this to the board and the ownership and the fans who are watching this team because of where they're at in the standings to do some things. So we would have sort of a clean slate here too. If somebody come a-calling, as long as it's the right move, as long as you get the right pieces back, me and you would have to get together and have a serious conversation about that.
All right. So
there you go.
We're not trading either Vladdy or Bo. Screw you. We're not trading
well, we would have to get in a room together, me and you, and shut the door.
The other guys, The other guys, we'd all move. I think that's safe to say.
Absolutely.
Starting pitching, I'd be looking at. I don't want to trade Barrios just because I need somebody that I can
predictable.
Say, hey, take the ball, please get an out.
I'm with you. But I'd trade Gosman. I'd trade Bassett. At least Bassett.
I mean, I would listen. I would listen on deals for him. What I would want, now we can maybe spin this a little bit. What I would want in return, I need, in addition to the trade deadline and the offseason, I got to come back next year looking at Spencer Horowitz is my everyday second baseman. I'm not saying that it prevents me from doing stuff. If somebody calls me up and says, we want to pick an all-star second baseman, I take him. But
Marcus Semien.
I definitely I want to go into next year with IKF as a bench player for me.
Absolutely.
So I need a third baseman.
Left fielder.
I need a left fielder. I need a center. I've got a center fielder. Dalton Varsho is going to be my center fielder.
Absolutely.
And hit 9th.
Yeah.
Or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
I've got George Springer. I got George Springer. I don't know who I have for catching next year. I am.
You got George because there's a lot of other things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody says, we want, if George goes in a bit of a heater here and somebody says, man, that postseason experience, yada, yada, et cetera,
miracles happens. Is there a unicorn? Such a thing?
But you'd also have to know, is there any payroll pressure to move guys? Like there's a lot of unknowns out there. Is there payroll pressure to move guys? You've got to get under a certain dollar figure because you don't want to be a repeat luxury cap team. Or luxury tax team, I should say. So there's a bunch of factors at work here. But I think we are on the same page. Nobody would be untouchable, but we would be less inclined to trade Vladdy, Bo, Barrios. Other than that, everybody else.
You have to be careful. Absolutely.
And but I do need I'm coming up with a shopping list here. Everyday catcher. Closer for next year.
Third baseman, left fielder.
Third baseman, left fielder.
Preferably one of those two could hit in the middle of the order.
Somebody has to hit in the middle of the order. Preferably a left-handed bat. And we haven't even gotten to the
pitching. And the bullpen. You have to blow that thing up and start all over again. Like it's a lot.
You know what?
There's a ton there. That's why you may have to trade people you don't want to trade to get what you need.
I think what I would do is I would just name Kevin general manager and I'd move into marketing or something like that. Daryl in Cambridge. I'd let you have the whole shot at this. Daryl in Cambridge.
Earlier on some of the guys this afternoon on the Fan 590 talking about how Ross keeps saying that they were working on run prevention. Well, Gurriel led the MLB in outfield assists. Moreno is the quickest release to second base in a long, long time. I would consider that run prevention. I didn't realize he wanted to prevent runs from his own team.
Oh, da-dum.
You got the home run champion, the home run derby, on another team that, part of him and Vladdy were like the big, huge combo. They're great friends. They work great together, and they both perform really well. And it's kind of like Vladdy's demise kind of started when they traded Teoscar. Anyhow, I can get your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, run prevention and run prevention requires a variety of things. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., when he was here, Lourdes Gurriel Jr.'s had a terrific outfield arm. Still does. I don't think that Lourdes' defense was the reason necessarily he was traded. I think they traded him because they believed, and rightly so, that Dalton Varsho is one of the best defenders in baseball. Like the leap in defense between Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Dalton Varsho is substantial. And Gabriel Moreno, that was it was part. I get back to this. When you make a trade, it is incumbent that you understand your own players, what you are giving away, who are you retaining. This organization had a lot of misplaced faith in Alejandro Kirk. They did. But when it came to the Diamondbacks, I know from the Diamondbacks didn't want Alejandro Kirk. Like I think the only people who really love Alejandro Kirk are there's 4 or 5 people in the Jays front office who really. I don't think other than that. I don't think anybody else. They look at him and they go, eh. But the other thing with the Lourdes Gurriel Jr. deal as well is it was about clearing some money. He was a potential free agent. They
re-signing him.
They didn't think they were going to re-sign him. So
and Teoscar, right?
Teoscar, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, just a little bit of breaking news here, I suppose. Joey Votto is no longer scheduled to be in the lineup for the Bisons tonight, whatever that means. That moved at, I got it at 5:44. So Joey Votto is no longer in the lineup for the Bisons, whatever it means. Either he's hurt or analytics. Maybe they didn't like the pitching matchup. I'm sorry, I just had to go there. Or who the hell knows? Because it's around the trade deadline. Right? But anyhow, Joey Votto's not in the lineup.
There you go.
For the
this is what I think about the call and the thoughts with Daryl. I think when you trade all 3 of those guys and don't replace them, at least 1 or 2 of them, it's hard to come back from. And I think that's where this front office is.
I think they're
paying for it.
I think they looked at Varsho as a left-hand hitting, a
And a lead defender, offensively, they were swinging and missing on it.
Who was left-handed and at least gave them some balance and was going to be cheaper.
Yeah, and with the 17 hitting coaches they got, sooner or later, one of them was going to speak his language.
You would think.
There you go.
Abdullah in Halifax.
Good call, though, Daryl.
That was a good call.
Absolutely.
Do you think Teoscar Hernandez winning the home run derby, and not just winning, but in a manner in which he is being advised by Vladdy Guerrero Jr., and they're really showing how close a relationship they have, would that be the final nail in the coffin to the role of Blue Jays' current general manager, Ross Atkins, for having essentially traded away to Oscar Hernandez for 1 year of Jordan Swanson, or Eric Swanson, I should say. So, yeah, wondering what you think about that. Hoping the Blue Jays can turn it around in the second half of the season, and go Jays, and keep up the great work. Big fan of the show.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you, Abdullah.
I think they could care less.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm in that camp. I think they could care less.
Yeah, I don't think they. I mean,
I don't even think they were paying attention. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, and we also got to remember that the Seattle Mariners also punted in Teoscar Hernandez, and right now they're looking for Teoscar Hernandez. So, no, I mean those deals don't get made without Mark Shapiro signing off on them. Let's put it that way. I don't think those deals get made without Mark signing off on them. I
don't think you can teach a run producer.
No,
that's what I think.
Here's the thing. There was a logic in the Teoscar Hernandez deal, provided other deals fell in place that allowed you to replace Teoscar. There was a logic to it. Now, did they get enough in return for Teoscar? No, they didn't. They will tell you that nobody wanted Teoscar, that there was very little interest. I think the Miami Marlins may have been interested in him, and that the offer wasn't that much. I don't have any reason to doubt that. Does that mean that in the long run it was a good trade? Clearly not. But at the time, there was a logic to it. And this gets back to what I've said about this front office. All of their moves make a certain amount of sense if something else had happened.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get away. They traded a third of a starting lineup. You could have a starting lineup today with Teoscar Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno in it. That'd be pretty good.
How about
third of your lineup?
Whoa.
You can't make those deals without bringing in guys who can replace them.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Turner's, KK, and IKF is a tough three replacements. I'm not saying those guys are not good players or big leaguers, but
this front office thought that the gain defensively would offset the loss offensively.
And the adjustments that the khakis and the information
and
the
Vladdy would continue to step up.
Away you go. Oh, boy. Swing and a miss on that.
Robin, West Kelowna as opposed to East Kelowna.
Last series against the D-backs, Jays are leading by 2 runs, top 8. We have runners first and third, 1 out, and Justin Turner coming up. We have a 2-run lead, top of the 8th. It's not Kirk on third base. Why would you not sack bunt an insurance run? As it turned out, we wound up losing that game by 1 run. Turner hits into a double play. How does John Schneider keep his job?
Jeff?
I can't even remember that.
Justin Turner's hitting cleanup for the Blue Jays. Right now, today. After 4 days off.
I don't know. Is he?
That's what you said.
Well,
you told us.
Well, did I say he's hitting cleanup?
You did.
Well, then he is.
Bo Bichette's hitting 5th.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on the
Turner ain't
should he not have bunted? I mean,
Turner's 39 years old. He's been around for a bazillion years. He ain't bunting all of a sudden. Like, I every once in a while I'm in that camp too, where you have to manufacture runs. And yeah, again, it gets back to that when Samson just came on and said, your manager's about as good as your players.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real easy to pile on John and say this is all John's fault. Good luck. I ain't in that camp.
No,
I'm not in that camp. I think it's It's about the players. The players are the guys that are going to go out there and get it done. Now, have the coaching staff had a little hand in this? Yeah, absolutely. With when John came on and said about the George Springer thing, and I asked the question, well, what the heck's taking so long about making adjustments? It's that part of it. It's relationships, about clout in the room. It's about the Donnie baseball thing where you – oh, yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than him. Why aren't the adjustments made quicker? Maybe if the George Springer thing had been made a month ago before he actually made the little adjustment with his hands, maybe the team's a little bit better. Yeah, maybe they're not 9.5 back. Maybe you're having a different conversation. So I do think they have a little hand in that. But, man, you're asking a lot.
It really is possible that the team that was put together
ain't no good.
Was no good. And the two guys that everybody thought would be good. One guy decided to have the worst year of his. That's not fair. He didn't decide. Bo didn't wake up and say, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to have the worst year of my career. This year I'm going to have the worst year of my career. But he's having a bad year.
Yeah,
and that's going to happen. Vladdy had a bad 6 weeks, month and a half, 2 months, and it's got to go
everyone came
again.
in and fixed it.
And yeah, we can't say this enough. For this thing to work, this year, both of those guys had to be lights out.
Yep.
That's it. And whatever people may say, Ross Atkins could not have been clearer. We believe in the core. And as you've said often, when you talk about the core of this team, you're talking about Bo and Vlad.
Absolutely.
That's the core. That's the offensive heartbeat of this team. Everything else around it is secondary to that.
Yeah, I got
the Jays built this team with the idea that Bo and Vladdy would have strong years. Guess what happened?
Yeah.
Bo isn't having a good year, joining a list of players that's probably the longest list you could find in sports of really good elite players who stunk. They've had a year where they just stink, where nothing's going for them.
Yeah. I just think you look at the Yankees, right? They have the best right-handed hitter in baseball. And they had to go out and get Soto because the best right-handed hitter in baseball needed help.
Yep.
The Blue Jays are no different. The core of that team needed help, and they didn't get it. Now they're 9.5 out with 6 teams in front of them. Yeah. It's real simple. It's cut and dry. So I don't think we've been saying this. I've been saying this. The last 2 spring trainings, we've had the same conversation. I've been standing in spring training asking you the same exact question. Who's hitting cleanup? Who's driving in the runs? Where's he at? 9.5 back, 6 teams in front of him. Simple.
7:07 will be the first pitch tonight. The Jays opening the post-All-Star break portion of the season against the Detroit Tigers. Maybe next week. You know what? I would love the Jays to move out of the AL East and move into the Central. I'd rather see realignment. I'd rather see the Jays with the Tigers and the Guardians and the Minnesota Twins.
They'd finish in 4th instead of.
That's just I'd rather. I'm just going to say that.
Really?
I miss seeing the Tigers and Jays. That's a thing.
Well, the balance.
Tigers and Jays should be a thing. It was a thing historically. It should be a thing. Anyhow, I'm glad, and I enjoy seeing the Tigers in town. That's just a thing. I grew up, Tigers and Jays were kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That's all. Anyhow, 7:07 is the first pitch tonight. Again, Kevin and me will be along following the game to do Blue Jays talk. We'll be down at the ballpark. We'll be back on Monday from 4 to 6 Eastern on Sportsnet 590, the Fan of Sportsnet. Have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the baseball. And as David Samson just finished telling us at the top of the hour, it's all going to be fine.